Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's Brandon. Welcome back to Marotta Media. I am back once again to talk about a horror movie in the month of October because it only seems fitting. But the movie I'm discussing today is one that I feel very honored to talk about this early because this film at the time I'm recording is not out yet, and it comes from one of my biggest inspirations. And that movie is Shelby Oaks. Shelby Oaks follows a woman named Mia Brennan who is looking for her sister Riley, who went missing 12 years prior. And Riley was filming a YouTube series for her show The Paranormal Paranoids when she went missing in the abandoned town of Shelby Oaks, Ohio. Now, as I said, I do feel honored to talk about this movie because, one, I got to see it early thanks to an invite from Neon, so big thank you to them. And secondly, this movie was written and directed by Chris Stuckmann. And in the YouTube space, if you know anything about movies, then chances are you know who Chris Stuckmann is. He is an internet film critic who has been reviewing movies for a very long time now. And as I said, Chris Stuckmann is one of my biggest inspirations. That man is one of the reasons why I woke up one morning and decided, you know what? I also want to make movie reviews. I love the way he conveyed his points. He had so many great series that he used to put out, like Hilariosity reviews. And I just love the look of his videos, his format, everything. The man is a big inspiration for me, and I feel forever indebted to him for inspiring me to do this myself. But Stuckmann has also always been very open with his desire to make a feature film himself. And I could not be happier for him that he is finally fulfilling his lifelong dream. Especially that his first ever feature film is being distributed by Neon, which is one of the best studios today. And Mike Flanagan is one of the producers. I mean, dude, you made it. But all that being said, I am not going to sit here and just constantly praise this movie because of my feelings towards Chris Stuckmann. I feel like that's really getting in the way of looking at things through a critical lens. Because I do think that Shelby Oaks is a good movie and a very, very impressive debut from Chris Stuckmann. But unfortunately, I didn't love this movie as much as I was hoping I would. And it's made obvious pretty early on that this movie is going to be a little bit confused. Because it begins as a documentary or mockumentary sort of style, where Mia is interviewed recounting the events of her sister's disappearance, and they also interview people that were investigating the disappearance. And I didn't expect this movie to be in a documentary sort of style, and I was like, okay, I like this idea. This will really work. But then I would say about 15-20 minutes in, the movie just completely shifts gears and becomes a standard narrative. And I think that Shelby Oaks would have been so much better off if it stuck with one or the other. Almost like Stuckmann really wanted to do both of these genres, but he couldn't decide which one worked better, and he was like, you know what, let's just do both of them. And while I respect that, I really wish it just stuck with one genre or the other, because it feels like it doesn't know what it wants to be right at the beginning of the film. But despite all that, at the very beginning of the movie, I was locked in. I was really invested. I wanted to know more about this girl's disappearance and what happened. However, as the movie went on, I found myself caring less and less about this story. Because as I said, I was invested right at the beginning of the movie, but Shelby Oaks takes a gigantic dip in the middle. And if I'm being honest, as it went on longer, I felt myself becoming rather bored. But it also doesn't help that Mia's investigation into her sister's disappearance feels so short. Because when this investigation feels like it's at its peak and it's finally starting to get a little interesting, it comes to an end. And I'm like, okay, that felt so much shorter than it should have been. I think that this should have gone on a lot longer. But I will say that there are a lot of really good things about this movie as well. I do think that the performances all around are well done, especially from the lead, Camille Sullivan, who plays Mia Brennan. The supporting cast also do a great job, and this movie also has Keith freaking David in it. So that's another tip of the cap to Stuckmann. You were able to get the legend Keith David in your first ever feature film. Props to you, dude. And of course, Keith David kills it like he always does, even though he's only in one scene. And since this is a horror movie, you can expect there to be some jump scares, and a lot of them work really well, even though I think jump scares are a little tired at this point. But I will say that there is one particular jump scare that made my entire audience let out an audible gasp. And I was like, it's moments like that why I love watching horror movies in a packed theater like this. And as a person who has watched Chris Stuckmann for a long time, and I know a little bit about the details of his life, I could tell that there was a lot of his own personal story put into this movie. Like his experience growing up being a Jehovah's Witness, and how his sister defected from that religion, and she was basically shunned and disowned by her own family. And Stuckmann has talked about this in interviews, how he knew that his sister was out there in the world, but he didn't know where she was. And you could see that reflected in the character of Mia, a person who lost her sister, and she truly believes that she is still out there in the world. She just doesn't know where she's at. And I could also tell that this movie may have been written around the time when Stuckmann and his wife gave birth to their 2 twin boys. Because there are definitely elements of a family narrative in here as well, and I thought that was reflected pretty well. Overall, I do think that Shelby Oaks is a very impressive debut from Chris Stuckmann. The man clearly does have an eye for the horror genre, and he loves it, and that shows throughout the whole film. He wears his inspirations on his sleeve, and you could tell that this man really put a lot of work into this. Despite the fact that I don't think Shelby Oaks is nearly as good of a movie as I was hoping it would be, it is still pretty good, and I would recommend you watch this movie, especially if you want to support him. And even though I didn't love Shelby Oaks, I still am very much looking forward to seeing whatever Chris Stuckmann does next as a director, because he can only get better from here. But overall, I would give Shelby Oaks a 6 out of 10. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching my review of Shelby Oaks. If you guys saw this movie, then let me know what you thought about it. Did you love it, or were you disappointed by it? If you guys like this review, then be sure to hit that thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe. If you want to see my previous reviews, I will link those right over here. Other than that, I hope you all have a tremendous rest of your day, and I will see you all next time.